So let's take two. We had a bit of an issue with sound quality a minute ago, so we're going to try again. So I'm Ellie Silson and this is Gurminder from Refined Convention. Today we're going to be discussing the age-old question of mobile sites versus applications.
Yep.
So give us a bit of a background about your startup story.
So my startup story started about 8 years ago when I was made redundant from a digital design agency, and through the encouragement of friends, family and some of the clients that I worked with at the agency, set up my own business, doing branding, identity, some design work, building websites, and then that slowly snowballed into developing apps for the public and private sector.
Okay. So let's start with what is the difference between a mobile site and an application?
So the key difference is mobile responsive sites are exactly that. So they will you access them via your smartphone and your tablet through a browser, and you type in the URL and you need an internet connection. But what they will give you is a user experience very similar to a desktop website. So the same look and feel and the same user experience as you go through the site. An application is a program that's physically installed onto your device and that sits on your device. And sometimes you don't need an internet connection to access it, so you just tap on it. But if your app is based on pushing lots of content frequently, so for example a news site or a retail example might be Amazon, where you've got millions of products, constant churn of products and services, then you would need an internet connection just to refresh the content on your app.
Yeah.
And that's the key difference.
So what are the pros of having an app versus a mobile site, and the opposite way around, what's the pros of having a mobile site over an app?
That's a great question. So apps are great for things like gamification, so games, and if your products and services may involve geo-targeting, so location-based reminders, location-based push notifications, and these days it's quite a lot of sort of retail apps will have you, when you walk past their shop and you've already seen a product and service on the website, they'll ping up a reminder on your device to say, hey,
oh, we've got them in store!
You're right next to our store, or you're in the neighbourhood, come in. Coffee shops, for example, do that. So apps are great for that, and they're also great. We built one for motorcyclists where it involved gamification, mapping, social sharing, and a lot of interactivity.
So how does that work? What do you mean? What was the app?
So the app's called iBiker,
okay,
and it enabled bikers to. It was a base for the biking community. So they could go on. They could look at routes that they could ride on.
Oh, right, okay.
There was videos on how to ride the route safely. They could put on the maps, biker meeting points, biker-friendly cafes, petrol stations, ATM machines, that sort of thing.
So very interactive. They could
interactive.
Add their points.
They could add their points. They could share that, and through the app, it built a sort of database for all these biker-friendly places.
Cool.
There was gamification in there, social sharing, and there's a bunch of videos in there. So we were using the native power of mobile phones to really use all that processing power, and that worked really well for the apps. So if you're involved in that sort of side of things, and also if you've got a lot of frequent and repeat customers, then an app may make more sense than a mobile-friendly website. The great thing about mobile-friendly websites is they're very easy to build and maintain. So typically when you're building a website, you would be asking the web developer or the web team to automatically build in a responsive site. When you update your main site, that should get pushed through into the mobile site as well. So you're not having to work across different platforms. And with mobile websites, you always reach a broader audience. More people will look at a website, and they might not necessarily download your app. So I think you have to be quite specific about what it is your app's going to do. And if it's gamification, geo-targeting, frequent and repeat customers, then it might make more sense to have an app.
Okay, so going on from there, if I'm a retailer just starting out, how do I decide whether I go for an app or a mobile website? Because it's a huge decision.
It is a huge decision. I think if you're an SME, it makes sense to start off with a mobile-friendly website.
Right, okay.
It's a natural step, and it doesn't take that much time and effort to build it and maintain it.
Yeah.
Apps, by their nature, tend to be quite expensive to start, to build,
Right.
and then quite expensive to maintain. So with an app, you're having to build for Android and iPhone.
Right.
So there's two platforms.
Yeah, okay, so double the work.
Double the work. And to maintain both apps on both platforms is quite time consuming, and it can be quite expensive.
Yeah.
And then you are reliant on your customers or your target audience to A, keep visiting your app,
Mm-hmm.
and B, updating the app when you're pushing new content through.
Right, okay.
And there was a survey earlier this year that said that 85% of apps, typically the cost tends to be sort of from the tens of thousands, and they can go into the hundreds of thousands depending on how much.
So that's the cost. So the difference in cost is a mobile site's cheaper.
Mobile sites are a lot cheaper, and often you can build in that cost very easily and absorb it when you're having your website built.
Okay.
But apps tend to be expensive
Yeah.
and expensive to maintain, so that's something you have to really think carefully about.
Yeah.
I would say if you've got frequent and repeat customers who are going to be constantly using your app to order your products or your services,
Yeah.
then it may make sense. But I would say for most SMEs, they should start off with a mobile responsive site first, and then use the metrics from the site to figure out if it's worth investing in an app.
Okay.
Just to let you know, Ellie, that the most popular apps in the world that you'd be competing with
Yeah.
are things like WhatsApp, Messenger, Facebook, Snapchat, Uber, Spotify, Netflix, Instagram. So those are the apps that most people tend to migrate
And most of
towards.
those are actually like messaging apps or social media apps.
Yes. So
You don't see many products.
there's very few product apps in there.
I mean, Uber obviously is a great example.
Uber is, but you're more likely to need a taxi than to keep going back and ordering.
Pair of shoes every day.
Pair of
Did you say that?
That's
That's a really good example. So, if my metrics though, if I want to look at user engagement as my main metric, what do I choose?
So again, it goes back to what we were saying before.
Okay.
If you've got gamification or database-based products and services, so for example, accountancy software,
Yeah.
then an app would be much better.
Yeah.
And you could get a lot of feedback in terms of people using the app for productivity, or if you're, for example, Amazon or John Lewis, who've got great apps for their stores,
Okay.
you can get a lot of information about how people are spending their time on the app, what
So
sort
you
of
can
things.
get the data.
You can get the data, and it sits on their phone. But if you're an SME and you don't have the sort of resources that bigger companies have, then you'll still get a lot more data through your mobile-friendly website. So you'll still get access to how often people are going on the site, what sort of things they're putting into their basket, whether they're going through that marketing funnel and going from browsing a product or service to putting it into their basket to then purchasing.
Yeah.
And you know, app fatigue is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of app developers are very wary that people can get very bored of apps quickly. So
A lot of the time you do download an app and you might use it a couple of times and then you need more memory,
I've
right?
got a bunch of apps on my phone. I don't use them, and I'm going through a bit of a cull at the moment.
Yes.
I need more memory space, and
Yeah.
often it's the apps that you don't use frequently that
Will
get
get-
binned.
Absolutely. So, Mex, has there been any questions that have come in through the comments?
No questions as of yet, however I do have one for you. So what is the next big thing?
So the next big thing is that there's obviously all the big wigs and execs out in Silicon Valley who work at the likes of Google, Microsoft, Facebook. They are looking and seeing the future not with apps but with chatbots.
Oh, we've got a chatbot, so we're there.
So you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But so you could essentially text, email,
Yeah.
or phone a chatbot to order a product and service, and that would be delivered to you. So rather than going through an actual app or a mobile site, you would be speaking to a chatbot to do it. And we're already sort of seeing the beginnings of that with things like Siri, for example, and also Amazon Echo. So where you can sort of do basic things like creating lists and memos.
So basically, just saying to it, like messaging a friend. Is it just saying like, oh, can you put this certain book in my?
Can you put a book in my thing, in my basket, or in the future it might be, I'd like to order my mum a bunch of flowers, and the chatbot might sort that out. So that's the thing that they're looking at. Not something that's going to happen in the immediate future, but I think in the next few years, chatbots are going to get more and more popular, and we'll see how well they develop. That's going to.
That's really interesting. So we have a chatbot called Peg, and I'll put the details. It's an accountancy chatbot in the comments. But thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.